Hard Eyes is a 2025 horror comedy romance movie. It's a Valentine's Day horror movie. It came out a week before Valentine's Day. It stars Olivia Holt as Maddie, a woman who works for an advertising agency who's going through a breakup when she meets Jay, who's brought in to help redesign her campaign, which has to do all with love and death, kind of inspired by Titanic. That's the marketing campaign she goes with. But there's a serial killer going around called Hard Eyes who's killing couples, so her campaign is obviously thrown into jeopardy. She meets with Jay, who tries to swoon her. They kind of have a bit of a romance, but things don't really go well between them since it's Valentine's Day. She's going through a breakup. And at that moment, there is this killer going around. The killer stalks them, Hard Eyes, the killer. And from that, we get a great horror comedy, a very light, simple movie. This is not a film I think will stand the test of time. It's just a very serviceable Valentine's Day horror movie. I'll get the cons out of the way. I really did think this could be smarter, a bit sharper. It does feel very much like just the puzzle pieces fitting into the puzzle. Like, you kind of know where this is going. There's nothing really in here that surprised me. I really did like how it had a very great sense of comedy and romance merged together. There's a lot of darkly comic, funny moments. It never is a movie that takes itself too seriously, and I think that is the best thing it actually has going for it. I mean, just some more cons. The characters are a little 2D. You don't really get a sense of their backstories. I don't want this to be a serious film. I just think it has to sacrifice a bit of like levity and realism in order to be this silly 95-minute romance horror comedy. It's pretty good, though. It reminded me of It's a Wonderful Knife from last year. I'm not sure if it was even by the same company, but they both were serial killer movies with twists on the genre. That one was a twist on It's a Wonderful Life. This one is just a twist on every romance movie, every rom-com out there. This movie really leans into the rom-com genre, and I think that's the best part of it. And it really could be, a much worse movie. It's not a movie that at the end of the year I'm going to remember and think that was a really great movie. I really did think there were moments in here I just wanted more from this killer. I wanted the killer to have more of this sadistic energy. I wanted him to be more gleeful. He really just feels like he's kind of serving the function of the plot. Like, in itself, the Hard Eyes killer is very intriguing. And I feel like they did have to ride this tough line. Do we want to have a movie that's like scary and violent? Or do we want a movie that is funny and lighthearted? And it is very lighthearted for having lots of deaths. I mean, there are scenes in this where a character's killed and the main couple, Jay and Maddie, they're bonding and like they're pulling a knife out of a dead guy's mouth and they're like, let's do this together. And they like pull it out. It's almost like a parody of the rom-com genre. It really is. But it works because it's also got that horror element. It's not scary though. I don't think this is a scary movie. I think that people who hate horror movies, who are very scared of them, will probably be able to handle a film like this. At the end of the day, Hard Eyes is just a movie that I think it's a good movie and it's smart, because I could be that asshole who's like saying this movie sucks, it isn't scary, it isn't really hilarious or a good romance movie. I think, though, it is a very good rom-com. And on top of that, it blends horror in there very well. And it's very funny. I saw this with a big crowd, President's Day. A lot of couples were there. Everyone was kind of just like laughing at the movie. It gets the job done. You want to see a movie where you can have a good time, enjoy the kills, and it's very fast-paced and fun to watch. Also, there's just always such clever dialogue. There's a lot of good visual comedy in here, like a scene where a character takes an American flag. She's at a police station and she's like ready to stab someone, and then she just like holds the flag up and is like doing the Pledge of Allegiance. It's just got this really kind of funny parody energy going for it, and it's really committed to that, which I give it credit for. I really don't think it's an amazing movie by any means. I actually thought the ending was a bit of a letdown, especially when they revealed who the killer was. I kind of half predicted it, but then some of it was just a little bit like, really? But overall, it has this very consistent energy that if it didn't have, it wouldn't have worked. So really, it is kind of breaking a bit of new ground. It's horror comedy with some romance. It's very cheesy in a good way. I like movies that don't take themselves so seriously like this. So I think if you want to see a movie that isn't, an amazing horror movie that's just a fun Valentine's Day movie with a bit of a horror element added, kind of like My Bloody Valentine. I really liked that movie. And this has a bit of a similar quality to it. It is more funny. It leans more into the romance and the comedy than that movie. That movie was straight up just really cool kills, had a really dark backstory. But I think this movie is pretty strong in a way, and I really do like that it's able to not take itself so seriously. That's the best thing about it. It's a good time just for a movie. You can really, I don't like to say it, but you can turn your brain off and watch it. And at the same time, the writers and the director, they're really doing a good job at making this fun, at making the comedy good, at making the romance element good. I mean, there really is a very strong romance element here. I do think they could have dialed into that just a bit more, especially with the other supporting characters. Overall, if they had added more with the supporting characters and their romances, I feel like this movie really could have been elevated. And if they had added something with the killer, made the killer a bit more sadistic or more his own character, kind of like Art the Clown in the first Terrifier, then the movie would really be great. But right now, it's a pretty solid, entertaining time at the movies. Go check out Hard Eyes if you want a good movie to see on Valentine's Day. That's horror comedy. So thank you guys for watching. Check out the next review.